Donald Trump is collapsing in Alabama. Donald Trump's approval is tanking. The latest polling from The Economist has Trump's approval in Alabama at net -8. May I repeat that? Trump's approval in Alabama, net -8, deeply underwater in a ruby red state of Alabama. Now, the people in Alabama are pissed as their healthcare costs are through the roof. Their electricity costs are through the roof. They can't afford anything. And they got these data centers that keep on popping up throughout the state. There's no accountability. There is no oversight of what's taken place. They just wake up one day and it's like another hyperscaling data center that's about to destroy your town. And you see people, Republicans, Democrats, independents, whatever, just out there protesting these data centers. And they know that it's Donald Trump and these MAGAs that want unregulated data centers everywhere. We've seen massive community events protesting these data centers there. And also the people are livid about Alabama's gerrymandering scheme. Of course, they remember the Civil Rights Act and what was taking place in Birmingham and elsewhere before the Civil Rights Act and how horrible it was. And now you have the Alabama legislature that's just imposing post-Calais Supreme Court decision, these gerrymandered maps. And people, again, from all political parties, all races and religions are absolutely livid. How pissed off are people about these data centers, like, you know, $1 billion data center here, a $19 billion data center project there. In the city of Athens, Alabama, the council member wanted to let everybody know, we're not doing data centers in Athens. He said, stop spreading rumors that we're doing data centers here. That's other towns. We won't allow it to happen. This is what's going on. Just the idea that one of these data centers can be in your town. Again, this is being pushed by Trump and MAGA and all of them. This is really galvanizing people. Watch what just happened in Athens, Alabama. Let's play it.
This council has not considered a data center in any form or fashion. The city of Athens has not considered a data center in any form or fashion. Data center has been talked about in other areas of this county, which we have no control. And we have a group that has manipulated that information, try to make it sound like we're trying to take advantage of the city. And that's not true. Like most things that group spreads. We have no intention of putting a data center in the city of Athens. We live here. We pay utility bills here as well. Don't go on social media and read a bunch of inflammatory mess and then think it's fact.
Or how about this Alabama voter right here when asked a very basic question? Do you think Donald Trump understands what poor people in America are going through right now? You mean the guy who was falling asleep at the Knicks luxury box and destroyed the Knicks game for so many people? You think that person can relate to poor people? Let's listen to what this Alabama voter has to say. Play this clip.
We all got to live, just like he has to live. So keep that in mind. He represents everybody, all of us, poor, rich, black, white. He represents all of us.
Do you think he understands what poor people in America are going through right now?
Not really. No, I don't think so.
You think he cares?
Apparently he don't. Looking at what's going on, apparently he doesn't.
Now I want to bring in the interview I just did with Doug Jones, former senator from Alabama, former top prosecutor in Alabama. He's running for governor against Tommy Tuberville, who's not even from Alabama. You know, Tommy Tuberville lives in Florida. He's got a $4 million beach house mansion there. He had this $300,000 home in Alabama, which he was pretending was basically his home when he was running for Senate. In Alabama, you have to live 7 years in the state in order to run for governor, which Tommy Tuberville clearly hasn't done. And Tommy Tuberville is Mr. Unregulated Data Centers Everywhere guy, Donald Trump, can I polish your shoes guy, Club Rose Garden, whatever Trump says, Tommy Tuberville's his stooge. I want to bring in Doug Jones to talk about this race. Here's the interview I just did earlier today with Doug Jones. Let's bring it in. Doug Jones, Democratic candidate for governor, coming off that primary win a few weeks back. He's running against MAGA Republican Tommy Tuberville, perhaps the most corrupt MAGA of them all, which is saying a lot. In the intro there, I covered a lot of what was going on in Alabama. I mean, the cost of living through the roof, healthcare costs incredibly high, pricing so many people out, people losing their healthcare there, data centers popping up in the dark of the night, and people want to know what the heck is happening with all of that. Electricity prices are through the roof right now. I don't think there's been a company rate case for the power company in 40 years. And people are saying, why do I keep seeing my electricity costs that are keep going up? Obviously, the Voting Rights Act being undermined and thrown out by a MAGA Supreme Court, but also your Republican legislature rushed in after the Calais decision and called all these emergency sessions and gave the middle finger to constituents. And not just I'm seeing an issue amongst black voters there in Alabama, I'm seeing all voters just pissed off that the legislature wants to basically say, we're the ones who are deciding who gets to represent you, and then corruption being a massive, massive issue. So we have a lot to talk about there, Doug. But why don't we start with this, though, is where I said, which is there's something in the air going on in Alabama right now. I just noticed in terms of the primary votes, I know you have an open primary out there. It seemed that on the Democratic side, about 2.5 times the amount of kind of ballots being cast. And then on the Republican side, a 25% drop. I don't want to extrapolate too much into this unless I should. What are you seeing on the ground there, Doug?
You know, that is what we have been feeling, Ben, and thanks for having me today, by the way. That's exactly what we've been feeling for months. It's exactly why we ended up getting into this race. There's something going on in Alabama and across the South, particularly in these state races. And you're right, we do not have party registration. We have open primaries. And I can tell you since 2010, when Republicans took complete control of Alabama, the legislature, all the state offices. The only race that we won was my Senate race in 2017. We've seen a considerable drop in the number of Democratic ballots that have been given out during primary season and on primary election day. This year, though, with races that were not that exciting, we didn't have an awful lot of contested races. I had a contested race, lieutenant governor, but none of us spent a lot of money. There was not, even in the local races, there was just not a lot of money spent. We saw that incredible increase over 2022 and really even about a 30% increase from 2018, which was kind of a high watermark. And on the other hand, you had Republicans with hotly contested races for the U.S. Senate, for lieutenant governor, for attorney general. I mean, hotly contested, spending tens of millions of dollars. And yet the number of ballots that went out was 25% less. That is telling me a lot about what's going on in Alabama. It tells me people are looking for a change. We're feeling that every day. And I think it was reflected in those votes. It's really important for us. Give us a lot of momentum going in. And more importantly, Ben, to be honest with you, just to be totally and brutally honest, it shows people that we have a path to win. That is something that is hard for a Democrat in the South to do, is to demonstrate that we've got a path for winning. These numbers show a very clear path to winning in November.
You're actually from Alabama, which is a threshold matter, unlike Tommy Tuberville. And look, it's pretty much an undisputed fact, as we would say in the law in a summary judgment motion. Dude lived in Florida, $4 million beach house. He had some $300,000 property he claimed when he was running for the Senate that may or may not even belong to his kids. Who knows? So he claims he was living in the $300,000 kid home and not his $4 million. I mean, what do you think? We're just stupid. And it's significant when it comes to the governor's race because there's a requirement in Alabama that you live in a state for a certain amount of years. And he clearly doesn't meet that threshold when he was trying to pretend when he was, in the Senate race that he was from Alabama. Regardless, we could, I think people know that they can make their determination. The guy really isn't from the state. So it is what it is. But I want to focus on, the state. So you
Right.
travel around and you hear stuff from people. I mentioned things, data centers, Voting Rights Act, electricity costs. Talk about what you're hearing, because I think you're hearing it too on a fairly bipartisan basis. It's not just like, hey, I'm a Democrat and I'm feeling hurt under the Trump economy. I think it's everybody.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think you pretty much hit most of those points that we are seeing and hearing about every day. The questions that we get when we do, and unlike Tuberville, I'm out there. I'm doing town hall type things. I'm doing listening sessions. I'm doing community dialogues, and so we're meeting with a lot of people, and we're hearing those same things. Let's just take them one at a time. The affordability issue is a big deal. Alabama has been catching up to the rest of the country in terms of the cost of living, not just groceries, but our electricity cost, our gasoline cost, our healthcare costs are now above the national average, but our wages are still about 75% less than the national average. Black women, Hispanic women are even below that. So people are hurting. Their families are hurting. They don't know what to do. Our farmers are hurting. They've gotten hurt by the tariffs like the rest of the country. They've been hurt by high gas prices, diesel prices, fertilizer prices. They're not going to make the kind of money, and they're not looking for a handout. They want their markets. They want the ability to make a living. But we're also hearing things in particular about healthcare. Alabama never expanded Medicaid, and we've lost rural hospitals because of it. People do, and rural communities are losing people because of that. The economies in those communities are not thriving because they've lost their health care. So those are the kind of things that we're hearing every day. And the Voting Rights Act is a big deal. Alabama has come a long, long way over time with regard to what we do with voting rights. We were ground zero for voting rights in the 1960s. And for years, I've heard that people don't want to go back. They don't want to see fire hoses and dogs again. They don't want to see about 4 children that were killed in a church. They don't care to see about the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're beyond that. We've moved on. Well, now the legislature and the governor has thrown us back. We've essentially rejoined the old Confederacy, Ben, in terms of voting rights. And that has gotten a lot of people concerned and alarmed. And so I think you're going to see a lot of mobilization for a get out the vote effort like we've not seen in a long, long time.
You're seeing the MAGA strategy unfold, though, and it looks a lot like their election strategy all the time, which is inspire fear, otherize different groups of people, migrants, transgender people. I saw MAGA Mike Johnson standing in front of a sign that says, "We'll give you tax cuts. Democrats will give you tax cuts. Democrats will give you transgender mice or transing mice." And it's transgenic mice, and it's important research for Alzheimer's and people who, that will probably save the lives of people in Alabama. But this is what they go. Then they've got their $1 trillion media machines that pump this stuff, and they go nonstop, and they try to divide the people. So what is there something different that you feel, is in the air now, and how do you kind of combat that machine? Because people feel this way. You're telling them, let me explain to you why. And the story is a little bit complicated, a little not complicated, but we need change, and I got to explain it to you. And they're going, it's transgender mice, and it's
right.
immigrants, and you got to blame them, and let's hate people more, and that's how we solve it. And that often becomes the dynamic in these races.
And it is going to become a dynamic in this race. You already see it playing out in the Republican primaries, anti-Muslim, anti-transgender, you name it. It is a divisive, hateful rhetoric that we see left and right coming from the other side. I can't tell you how many ads that I saw from, not from the U.S. Senate candidates, but from state legislative candidates saying that they're going to protect our borders. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. We've got borders with Mississippi and Tennessee and Florida and Georgia. We don't have borders anywhere else. And so it's bizarre to watch, but you're right. everything that we're going to see, we're going to get hit with this. And that is part of this whole gerrymandering plan as well. They don't have any substance, Ben. There's no programs. There's nothing that they can put forward, nothing that Tommy Tuberville will put forward to help the affordability issues, to give health care to people in Alabama, to lower those electricity bills, to lower the cost of living in housing and other things. And so they have to induce fear. That is the old George Wallace playbook. It has worked before, and that's what they're trying to do. Everything you see right now coming out of Tuberville's mouth is essentially what you just said. And our challenge is going to be having the resources to counter that, to put forth our agenda of what we want to do. You know, I think you and I may have talked about this, but our whole theme and our whole anthem that we're trying to make sure people understand and know is that we want to build a house with a crowded table, where there's a place by the fire for everyone, because that's what moves a state and a community forward. That we all come together, that we're working and we're rowing in the same direction. It's not a game, and I'm not going to play with the sports metaphors that Tuberville can only talk about. Alabama's not a dang football stadium. We want that house with a crowded table, but it's going to be an uphill battle for us to get that message out over the rage machine that the right has built up so much. And we've got it big time here in Alabama. That's about the only thing that we see. So we're going to where people are. We're doing podcasts like this and local podcasts. We're going to where people are left and right, and we'll be out there as much as we possibly can.
Doug, before we go, where can people learn more about the campaign and any final message to our 7 million subscribers? You know, look, I think people can go to DougJones.com and you can follow me on X at Doug Jones, Blue Sky, Instagram and Facebook is, I think, Doug Jones Mama. I'm even starting to figure out how the hell to do TikTok. I'm not going to dance, but I am trying to figure that out a little bit. But the message I have to folks, Ben, and I really appreciate the question, is don't sleep on these races in the South, particularly the Alabama governor's race. We have spent a lot of time and effort recruiting statewide candidates that are going to make a difference. This is the first time in 20 years, thanks to my recruiting, that we have a candidate in every one of Alabama's constitutional offices. We can make a big difference. And if we can make the difference in Alabama, in the governor's race in Alabama, imagine what that does. Imagine the rocket fuel that it will give going into 28, into 30 and beyond. So I'm asking folks to just please take a look, contribute if you can. Don't sleep on these races, because the governor's races perhaps may be the most important races that we've got in this midterm. What's the website, Doug?
It's DougJones.com.
Thanks, Doug. Great to see you. Doug Jones running for governor of Alabama.
Thank you.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's hit that 7 million subscriber mark.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.